Hey guys, this is Matthias from 5 Minutes of Poker, and today I'm going to talk about opening ranges and what cards you can and should open from the button. Whenever you're playing, doesn't really matter which table size. It might be 3 to 10 people, as long as it's you to act on the button. These are the rules I usually go with. First, this is my standard range if I don't know anything about my opponents. This is the range I'm playing. It's around 50% of the hands, which is reasonable. And as I've mentioned in earlier videos, and this is becoming more and more true, that the cards that you select now doesn't really matter, because the equity of Queen 7 off or Jack 5 suited or 7-3 suited or King 5 off, they are all very similar against the big blind, who defends 50% of his hands. So when it comes to buttoning open, it's much more important to consider your opponent's tendencies. There are 4 things I look at. First, it's the small blind 3-bet against the button open, and then it's the big blind 3-bet against the button open, and then it's the big blind defend calling against the button open, and then last it's the small blind call against the button open. That's usually quite rare, especially since I open 3x from the bottom. Opening sizes is a discussion for another video, I think. So I'm just gonna leave it there. And why is the 3-betting so important? Yeah, because if you open 50% of your hands, maybe you can defend 25% of those against a 3-bet. You can defend 50% of your 50%, so you can defend 25% with a call or a 4-bet. And that means that 50% of your range, like all of these ace-7 to ace-deuce, you have to fold, and then you lose a lot of equity. Let's say you're playing against 2 really tough opponents. Say the small blind 3-bets 20% against the button open, and the big blind 3-bets 15% against the button open. These are high numbers, but not unreasonable, and in no way exploitable. And what happens then is that 80% of the time the small blind doesn't 3-bet, but then you're gonna face a 3-bet from the big blind. So that means that in 68% of the time you're not gonna face a 3-bet, which means that 32% of the time you're facing a 3-bet. And if you're raising 3x, then with all the hands that can't defend, that you have to fold, like King 9 off, King 8 off, all of these, many of these suited cards, that you're gonna lose 0.96, almost one big blind every time on average, because you're gonna get 3-bet 32% of the time. And losing 1 BB, starting with 1 BB loss when you come to the flop, that's quite a tough task to recover. You're gonna have to have an opponent who overfolds or plays pretty poorly post flop in order to get back that. So when you're facing such tough opponents, you need to adjust and playing a tighter range, maybe down to 38% or something like that. And also, if the big blind, if the opponents aren't that tough and the big blind calls a lot, it's also quite important how he plays post flop. If he folds a lot to continuation bets, then it might be profitable. We can take another example. Let's say the small blind 3 bets 14% and the big blind 3 bets 10%. Then you're gonna face a 3 bet 22.6% of the time, which means that in my case, I'm gonna lose 0.68%. 0.68 big blinds, which is still a lot, but it's much easier to recover than almost losing an entire big blind. I've just, even though the cards you open don't matter as much when you're opening a wider and wider range, I've still done my usual stuff and constructed ranges with hand to note. So these are the ranges that regs open. You can see here King 7 seems to be King 7, King 6, somewhere around there seems to be a cutoff point. 8x off. Some regs are open 8-7, 7-6 off. You see many are opening all the queens, most of the jacks, like that. If we color it up, we can see that ten, 6, 9, 5. Tree. Yeah, something like this. When I go for minimum range from the bottom, I look at Snowie. This is what Snowie suggests. I mean, previously Snowie suggested that you should always raise pot from the bottom. I'm not sure if that's changed, but this is the range that Snowie used when I looked earlier when raising pot. So this is 39% approximately, which is a solid range, and this is a range you can play against tough opponents because they're not gonna be able to exploit you, and you're gonna defend enough to make their 3 bets with their weakest hands not profitable. I've also looked at my alias and see how the distribution of hands look for winning regulars, and you can see the mean is 47%, and if you take from like 38% up to 60%, you're gonna get 95% of all the regulars. But as I said, making those extra big blinds per 100 from the button is all about adjusting to your opponents. If your big blind folds too much or 3 bets too little, or your small blind 3 bets too little, widen your range, open 70-80% if you want. Also, you can look at their tendencies against bet sizes. If they fold the same amount against a 2x raise as against a 3x raise, by all means raise 2x, because you're risking less to take down the pot, and that's gonna raise your winning rate. I think that's what I had to say about opening from the bottom. If you have any questions, suggestions, or topics, or shout outs, leave a comment and let me know what you think. Take care and good luck at the tables.